students of class 12. I am back here with your new chapter from the book Flamingo, that is the Rattrap. So today we are going to start this chapter and read this chapter line by line. Okay, so before beginning the story, as we always do, we are going to see about our author. The Rattrap is written by Selma Lagerlöf. Selma Lagerlöf was a Swedish writer whose stories have been translated into many languages. This story is set in the middle of the mines of Sweden, which are rich in iron ore, and the story is narrated in the manner of a fairy tale. The main message that the story portrays, it gives us the message that the emotions of love and acceptance can reform any kind of a person. Now students, you see, we all know that love is that supreme power, the supreme power that can put the goodness of faith in every human being. In this story, the protagonist of the story is a stranger, a rat-trap peddler, a vagabond, a ragamuffin. So he is a man with absolutely no identity in the social strata. He is a beggar. He is a poor man clad in ragged clothes. So he has no stature in the society. He leads his life by petty thievery and by selling rat traps. And there comes our title, The Rat Trap. Before discussing the significance of the title, I would like to teach you the story line by line. Now the story deals with the themes of human kindness and compassion. Human kindness, love and compassion can change any human being, can instill the faith of goodness in any human being. It can transform hardest of the hearts. And the second theme is need for companionship that we are going to see here. Now, the rat trap. I will read line by line, and then after I complete the full story, I am going to discuss about the themes and other messages and everything. The rat trap. Once upon a time, there was a man who went around selling small rat traps of wire. He made them himself at odd moments from the material he got by begging in the stores or at the big farms. But even so, the business was not profitable. So he had to resort to both begging and petty thievery to keep body and soul together. Even so, his clothes were in rags, his cheeks were sunken, and hunger gleamed in his eyes. So you see, students, it is related in the style of a story, a folk tale kind of a fashion. The story is being narrated. Once upon a time, there was a man. So the man did not have a particular identity. He was a petty man. And what was his work? He went around selling small rat traps of wire. But that did not bring him proper income, and it was not profitable. So he had to take help of begging and thievery for his survival. Body and soul together means to survive. So, and the rat traps that he made, how did he get the raw materials? The materials he got by begging in the stores or at the big farms. So basically, he was a beggar, He was a vagabond. He was a rat-trap seller. He was a petty man. He was a poor man. And his appearance also proved that he was a poor man. He wore rags. His cheeks were sunken. And hunger even gleamed in his eyes. He was always hungry. He was poor. He did not manage to get a proper meal for a day. No one can imagine how sad and monotonous means boring, life can appear to such a vagabond. Vagabond means a person, a vagrant dweller, a person who doesn't have a permanent residence. So appear to such a vagabond who plods along the road, left to his own meditations. But one day, this man had fallen into a line of thought, and suddenly one day, a philosophical thought came into this man, which really seemed to him very entertaining and appealing. Now, what was the thought? And how did it come to his mind? How did it settle in his mind? He had naturally been thinking of his rat traps when suddenly he was struck by the idea that the whole world about him, with its lands and seas, its cities and villages, was nothing but a big rat trap. It had never existed for any other purpose than to set baits for people. It offered riches and joys and shelter and food and heat and clothing and all sorts of temptation, exactly as the rat trap offered cheese and pork, and as soon as anyone let himself be tempted and allured to touch the bait, it closed in on him, and then everything came to an end. So this was the peddler's line of thought. That this whole world, with its beautiful topographic features and cities and villages, is just like a big rat trap. It's just like a big rat trap. Now, what is a rat trap? A rat trap is an instrument that is used to trap rats. How? By providing baits, by alluring them to food like cheese and other such things that tempts the rats to come into that trap and it get closed on it. Similarly, all the luxuries of this world, all the beautiful landscapes, all the materialistic pleasures in this whole world, the riches, the joys, the entertainment, the shelter, the food, the temptations, only beckon individuals to make them fall into the trap. If they get hold of these materialistic luxuries in their life, they are actually moving away from the greater truth of life. And that is how life traps individuals. So this is the thought of the peddler, and the peddler, feels happy to think it in this way, that all the rich people who are enjoying the luxuries of life are actually people who are trapped, are actually people who are moving towards the end by getting hold of all these temptations. So he is a cynical man. He has grown to be a sadist just because his life is poverty-stricken and monotonous. He feels that the people who get hold of all the materialistic luxuries that are offered to them by life is actually getting trapped into it and is nearing to the end. So this is the particular line of thought he believes, and he has grown it. He thought that all the luxuries of the world are like traps. The people who are not yet into it, that is, the people who haven't yet got any sort of luxuries, are still free. And those who have stepped into the temptations, the materialistic luxuries, are actually closing to their end, are actually nearing to their end. So this is his line of thought that he had developed. The world had, of course, never been very kind to him. Naturally, he's a poor man. Everybody always turned him back. Nobody ever showered love to him. Nobody ever believed him. And that is why he is suffering through this financial condition, emotional insecurity. And that is how he had developed this line of thought that the people who are rich are actually nearing to their end. So the world had never been very kind to him. It gave him unwanted joy, untampered joy, unusual joy. It gave to him to think of it in this way, that this whole world is a rat trap, and the rich people who get hold of the materialistic benefits and luxuries are actually the people who are nearing the end. And those who are yet not associated with the luxuries and temptations of life are still free. And so he is a free man. It became a cherished pastime of his during many dreary ploddings, very sad ploddings, to think of people he knew who had let themselves be caught in the dangerous snare, and of others who were still circling around the bed. He has grown cynical. He thought, look at these people. They are just indulging in a competition to get trapped, and I'm a free man. One dark evening, as he was trudging along the road, he caught sight of a little grey cottage. Important part, students. The climax of the story that led to the flow of the whole story. He caught sight of a little grey cottage by the roadside, and he knocked on the door to ask shelter for the night. He is always prepared that he will be turned back. But this time nor was he refused. Instead of the sour faces which ordinarily met him, this time the owner was an old man without wife or child, was happy to get someone to talk to in his loneliness. Immediately he put the porridge pot on the fire and gave him supper. Then he carved off such a big slice from his tobacco roll that it was enough both for the stranger's pipe and his own. Finally, he got out an old pack of cards and played jollies with his guest until bedtime. So you see, this man is accustomed to be turned back by people. He had grown cynical. His life is monotonous. He doesn't harbor any hope. But one night, on a cold winter December night, he found a little grey cottage, knocked, and there came out an old man who did not have a wife or a child, and he was totally opposite to the ragamuffin, to the stranger, to the rat-trap peddler's expectation. He welcomed him inside. He was a benevolent man. He gave him food. He gave him tobacco. He played with him. And he also discussed his secrets with him. So you see, the world is yet not full of bad and rude people. Here still exists people with a benevolent heart who can give abundantly. But it was wrong on the old man's part to discuss about his secrets with this stranger. The old man was just as generous with his confidences, means secrets, as with his porridge and tobacco. The guest was informed at once that in his days of prosperity, his host had been a crofter at Ramshaw Ironworks and had worked on the land. But now that he was no longer able to do day labor, it was his cow which supported him. Yes, that bossy refers to the old man, the old crofter's cow. That Bossy was extraordinary. She could give milk for the creamery every day, and last month he had received 30 krono in payment. The man was a very simple-hearted man, the old man. He even showed the stranger the 30 krono notes out of excitement. The stranger must have seemed incredulous. For the old man got up and went to the window, took down a leather pouch which hung on a nail in the very window frame, and picked out 3 wrinkled 10 krono bills. These he held up before the eyes of his guest, nodding knowingly, and then stuffed them back into the pouch. The next day, both men got up in good season, that is, in good mood, in good humor. The crofter was in a hurry to milk his cow, and the other man probably thought he should not stay in bed when the head of the house had gotten up. He also got up, and they both left the cottage at the same time. So you see, the old man was a good-hearted man. The old man was a benevolent man. The old man was in a way foolish. He had the faith of goodness in his heart, and he revealed everything to the stranger. But do you know why? Because of the lack of companionship in life. No man can live alone. Everybody hankers for companionship. And that happened to the old man, and that led to the revealing of his secrets to this stranger, because he was alone and everybody hankered for companionship. The grofter locked the door, put the key in his pocket. The man with the rat trap said goodbye and thank you, and thereupon each went his own way. But half an hour later, the rat trap peddler stood again before the door. He was not worthy of the trust of the old man. He did not try to get in, however. He only went up to the window, smashed a pen, stuck in his hand, got hold of the pouch with the 30 krono. He took the money and thrust it into his own pocket. Then he hung the leather pouch very carefully back in its place and went away. As he walked along with the money in his pocket, he felt quite pleased with his smartness. He realized, of course, that at first he dared not continue on the public highway because he had robbed a man. So he was fearful at heart. He did not take the public highway but turned off the road into the woods. During the first hours, this caused him no difficulty. Later in it became worse, for it was a big and confusing forest which he had gotten into. He tried to be sure to walk in a definite direction, but the paths twisted back and forth so strangely. He walked and walked without coming to the end of the wood, and finally he realized that he had only been walking around in the same part of the forest. All at once, he recalled his thoughts about the world and the rat trap. Now his own turn had come. So he's continuously harboring the thoughts of the rat trap in his mind. Now he felt that as he led to the temptation of stealing the money, he is also now trapped in the rat trap of the world. He had let himself be fooled by a bet and had been caught like other people. The whole forest, with its trunks and branches, its thickets and fallen logs, closed in upon him like an impenetrable prison from which he could never escape. So he was trapped in a prison, and here prison is the forest. Here it is a comparison with the use of like, so it is a simile. The whole forest with its deep canopy is being compared to a impenetrable prison that had trapped the rat trap peddler now. So you see, let us see about the old crofter. Who is a crofter? A crofter is somebody who rented a small farm with a plot of land and living in a house on it. A tenant farmer who paid his tenancy with manpower instead of cash. Now, What do we learn from the old crofter? Point number 1. He was a lonely fellow. He was old and lonely. He lacked companionship. And that is why he revealed his secrets to the one and only person he found to have a chit chat with. The stranger, the thief, the ragamuffin, the vagabond. He was without wife or children. He welcomed the Rattrap seller. That shows he was a benevolent man. He was a simple-hearted fellow. He shared supper of porridge, shared tobacco, he played jollies. So he was a very simple-hearted man. He was generous with confidences too. He revealed about himself, he revealed about his money to his stranger guest. He revealed about the place, he showed him the money. So you see, we can get his character sketch from these lines.